Assalamualaikum and good morning, Dr. Roslan. My name is Nur Atika Nabiha binti Abdul Rashid and my matrix numbers is ZP05081. So today my group will be presenting about our group assignment and we have chosen question number 5, which is the Holy Quran clearly stipulates that all matters pertaining to distribution of wealth at death to fully describe to Faraidh. Discuss issues and challenges in Islamic inheritance Faraidh in Malaysia. So my group consists of me, myself, Nur Atika Nabiha, Amira Hanis, Zulkhairi and also Faraidh. So for the introduction part, I'll be talking about it. Alright, so basically, what is Faraidh? So Faraidh is an Islamic law that involves the distribution of wealth of the dead person, or we can say the deceased. So throughout my research, I have identified that Faraidh need to be done as fast as we can, as fast as possible, as soon as possible, because we wanted to minimize all the problems in future that will be arising. Right, so there are 3 sources of knowledge for Faraidh, which is Al-Quran itself, Ijtihad and also Hadith. Alright, so Faraidh will also help in minimize the negativity or the negative complications during the distribution of wealth. So one of it is a fraud, and then like the quarrel between the heirs itself, and it also helped to minimize the manipulations, because during Faraidh there is a certificate of Faraidh, which the certificate actually stated who are going to receive that amount of the wealth, and what kind of wealth will he or she receive, and what are the proportion of the wealth. So basically, when we're talking about proportion, there are actually many proportions, and the proportions or the part is actually depends on the situations of the deceased. Alright, so for example, we have like half is, for example, for the wife, alright, and then their sisters, and then we have 1/4, we have 1/8, we have 2/3, and we have 1/3, and also we have 1/6. So thank you so much. That's my part. I'll pass to my next friends.
Assalamualaikum Dr. Roslan. My name is Faraidh and I'll cover on the issues in Islamic inheritance. So first and foremost, one of the common issues relating to Faraidh is the complex documentation. It can be incomplete and inadequate preparation of documentation due to the required documents are either forgotten, lost, misplaced and so forth. So for instance, important documents for the Faraidh processes are like identity cards of the heirs, marriage certificates or divorce certificates, death certificates of disease and other related documents. And if all these required documents are not in present during the process, it can hinder and the distribution cannot be proceeded. Other than that, it can be because of the heirs not clearly remembering or knowing the facts of the family lines or the dates when other heirs died. For instance, they forgot the marriage history of the deceased or are unsure of death dates before or after the deceased, do not know the names of other heirs, or have no evidence of declaration of presumption of death. So all these factors have a direct effect on the distribution of inheritance in determining the heirs and their respective shares. Moving on to the second issue, which is cost and time consuming. According to Yaqub, it may take up about 3 to 10 years to complete a claim process, and even worst case scenario that prolong to more than 20 years. So with such period of resolving the inheritance, the distress is not just on the time consumed to settle the process, but also financial burden associated with the claims, because in order for you to settle the Faraidh process, clients have to endure the scourge in dealing with Amanah Raya Berhad and also lawyers, and they have to pay whacking bills. So any transaction or application to claim the estate, naturally it involves costs. And for small estates, for instance, Amanah Raya Berhad charge around 2 to 3% on the value of estates, while lawyers will charge between 1 to 1.5% on the value. This is polled by New Straits Times. Moving on to the next issue, which is ignorance attitude of beneficiaries. There are just too many unsolved and undistributed estates due to heirs and beneficiaries' ignorance and negative attitude. Hard truth is we heard just enough of disagreement stories among the beneficiaries, who often siblings, that lead them to feud among themselves for ownership of the properties. So dissatisfaction of beneficiary on the distribution of properties are common when it comes to Faraidh settlement. And this negative attitude expressed by beneficiaries causing the smooth process of estate administration and distribution to be interrupted. Society's judgmental attitudes and perception is another whole different story when it comes to Faraidh. Division of estate of the deceased upon his or her death, as sensitive as it is, it must be expedited because this is what Islam taught us. However, again, due to ignorance, noble heirs and beneficiaries who are actually in knowledge of Faraidh settlement will turn out to be labeled as greedy and lust for wealth, which end up causing bitter dissension among family members. So end up when even though you have the knowledge of Faraidh settlement, you know how to settle it, you know that things have to be expedited and all, but due to the perception and attitude, judgmental attitude by people around you, that end up everyone afraid to speak up and just sit back and look forward to when the matter would be discussed and who should initiate the discussion. And because we Malay people are normalized to the fact that it is taboo to discuss about wealth and after death until we subconsciously develop the fear of being labeled as money grabbing and materialistic. Therefore, each estate is up for so long without completing because everyone is afraid to talk about it. Everyone is afraid of being labeled greedy. But the truth is, when we prolong the process and everyone keep it silent when it comes to this, therefore we have neglected the obligation to divide the inheritance and therefore ignore the claims of religion in order to expedite the distribution of the estate. In continuity to the perspective and attitude issues just now, it leads to postponement of the process of settling inheritance, which brings up another issue, which is layered death, or the term is munasakhat. So munasakhat is the situation where the heirs or beneficiaries die after the death of the deceased before distribution of his property. So it can happen because after years and decades of postponement, of course, death is likely to occur. After all, we are in that big topic of, we are revolving around the big topic of death. So the share of inheritance of the deceased heir is then inherited by his heirs, and this goes on and on until the death of some other heirs. So this cycle of death and undistributed inheritance grows bigger and bigger for every year of postponement. Therefore, we know where the number of 70 billion comes in. And last but not least, all these issues arising, if we go for personal, it's because Muslims in Malaysia specifically is actually still far from having awareness on Islamic inheritance. So in curbing the continual increase in unclaimed properties among Muslims, it is high time to educate Muslims in Malaysia to fully understand about the Islamic inheritance law or Faraidh. So Muslim society in Malaysia is still far behind, and more efforts towards increasing the knowledge about Islamic inheritance law need to be made, need to be conducted. And after all, despite the background, profession, or which sectors we are all in, it is unfortunately the truth that Muslim societies still have less understanding when it comes to wealth management. And even there are some that plan for wealth management and wealth preservation, but it is not accordance to Islamic wealth distribution. So in the relation to scenario mentioned, the awareness on Islamic estate planning still the most important elements, whether the individual opting for Islamic wealth distribution or the other way around. So it is, after all these issues mentioned, like perspective, especially perspective and attitude, it developed out of the lack of awareness among us. So I believe that's it for the issues in Islamic inheritance. Thank you, Dr. Ruslan.
Hi, Assalamualaikum Dr. Roslan. I'm Amira Hanis and my metric number is ZACP05150. So I will be presenting about the challenges of Islamic inheritance Faraidh in Malaysia. So the first challenges in implementing or distributing the inheritance using Islamic law of inheritance, or we known as Faraidh, is lack of awareness and concern about Faraidh. There are still a lot of Muslim community in Malaysia do not understand the concept of Faraidh that divide or distribute the inheritance using the Islamic ways. In fact, there are still Muslims that have less concern about Faraidh, and this might cause mishandling and injustice to the rightful heir of the inheritance. It is important for Muslims to aware and have knowledge about Faraidh to make sure the inheritance being distributed fairly so that it will not only provide justice to the heir, but also to ensure a happy, pleasant life and to avoid tribalism and family divisions. So, in order to spread the awareness and knowledge about Faraidh, it is suggested by a scholar that the teaching and learning of Faraidh should be included in the new curriculum of Islamic education in secondary school, KBSM. Another scholar also suggested that the Faraidh knowledge should be included in the broadcast dramas, films or television programs to give awareness to people, especially Muslims, about the importance of the Islamic inheritance management. The second challenges of Faraidh is there are no uniformity between Islamic laws in all states. This is because Islamic laws are the state laws. Hence, there is no uniformity in the administrations and also standard method of investigations of the Sharia courts in all states. This will make the heir quite difficult to claim his inheritance outside of the state in which he currently resides. For your information, there is an estimated total of 42 billion ringgit of Muslim inheritance has failed to be distributed to the rightful heir due to the lack of effectiveness of the administrative system and also the attitude of committee or heir itself. Therefore, it is highly advisable that the legal authorities need to develop a systematic and uniform policies and standard method of investigation to ensure smooth process of claims for the right heirs. The next challenges of implementing or distributing Faraidh is the dual legal system that is used in Malaysia. In Malaysia, there is a dual system of court, which is civil court and also Sharia court. Civil courts in Malaysia have control of the majority of the constitutions. Hence, they have jurisdiction over all Malaysians. While Sharia court doesn't have authority to distribute the inheritance except to certify and confirm the authenticity of relevant documents such as a certificate of legal heirs and their shares. So currently, the heirs of Muslims is still free to choose to distribute the inheritance either by Faraidh or according to the agreement using the civil court. But in my opinion, Sharia court should have a more active role in Muslim society rather than only certify the documents and reminding Muslims of the importance of performing Faraidhs. And the Faraidh certificate also should be made necessary for all Muslims even though the heir have surrendered his rights toward the wealth. This is to ensure that there will be no problems or conflicts occur in the future. The fourth challenges is there are various administrative bodies and institutions handling the Faraidh process. For example, in the case of distribution of estate, there are 4 institutions such as Amanah Raya Berhad, Mahkamah Tinggi, Seksyen Pembahagian Pusaka and also Syariah Court involved and have jurisdiction on this matter. The existence of these many administrative bodies and institutions, however, could result in overlapping powers and obligations, as well as misunderstanding about the varied roles and responsibilities of various authorities involved in the property distributions. Therefore, it is better to have a single body or institution as administrator with the single jurisdictions to become responsible to manage and distribute the property. A scholar also has suggested that the 4 institutions that I mentioned just now should be consolidated into a single organization with the authority to distribute the property to ensure seamless application procedure. And the last challenges of Faraidh will be the inadequacy and inefficiency of e-Sharia system. In Malaysia, Faraidh is calculated using e-Sharia application that is established on the JKSM website, which is Department of Sharia Judiciary of Malaysia. This system, however, can only compute the cases layered debts up to 50 layers only and does not work beyond that. Currently, to address these inadequacy issues, the responsible authority needs to manually calculate the Faraidh computations under the current system. Not only that, there is also some cases where solutions that have been computed using the current system sometimes give quite confusing and not so accurate results. Hence, in order to address the inadequacy and inefficiency of the current system, the concerned authority must improve and upgrade the current e-Sharia system capability to enable them to resolve many critical cases and avoid any injustice to the rightful heirs. So that's all for my part. I'll pass to Mr. Zohari for the next part. Thank you, Doctor.
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Roslan. I'm Zulhairi here. I will be presenting on the opinion and our conclusion. The Islamic teaching derived from the Quran and Hadith provide the clues to adopt an Islamic-oriented growth strategy which can help powerfully in realizing the Islamic vision of a just socio-economic order. So Islamic inheritance law or Faraidh is a tool in achieving the wide distribution of wealth to reach a just socio-economic society. The importance of learning and teaching of Faraidh stated in the hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Learn Faraidh and teach them to people, for it half of no knowledge, and it will be forgotten, and the first to be taken up from my community. Under the Islamic system, the obligation of maintaining the family children, wife, parents, and sibling always rests upon the husband. Even the personal income of a wife is larger than a husband. Hence, the double share of men comparing to women in the same degree of relationship with men is provided in order to fulfill man's responsibility to his family. Far from the discrimination prejudice of the women beneficiaries, these distribution rules actually place women in a favorable position as compared to men beneficiaries, as woman has no financial obligation to the family. For example, the share of husband and wife, which mentioned in the Quran, chapter 4, An-Nisa, verse 12, husband receive 1/4 in the present of male and female offspring, and wife get 1/8. Even the share of men is bigger in amount, but in the end, the received inheritance should be used to maintain the family, which might take over all his belonging. Whereas the wife are free from this kind of responsibility, and as in the absence of father, the children uncle should involve in taking care of them. From the economic point of view, we can see that in Islam, women have their own identity. Prior to Faraidh, Islam in such way provide them financial aid through the share from inheritance so that women can use it as capital. Indirectly, Islam opens the chance for women to spare the time and involve to any profession, business or trade, taking part in increasing the society wealth. Thus, Faraidh, with its fixed, scientific and harmonious system, attach men and women power to produce value, increase national wealth and the society welfare. From a legal perspective, the benefit of predetermined share is the kindness to perceive potential benefit to a scheme that specified share. In contrast to the conventional inheritance system, this provides greater apparent legal freedom to the individual to control devolution of their property upon death. Thus, the predetermined share minimize the manipulation from the one who has bad intention to the family. From the microeconomic perspective, the redistribution of wealth permanently and systematically ensure that the concentration of wealth in every generation at the most micro level possible. Faraidh plays the role to make sure that this economic activity continuously growing from time to time. When Faraidh implementation is going effectively along with zakat as wealth distribution tools, then the wealth equality will be achieved. Hence, when wealth distribution become equal, the income distribution is also expected to be equal. By then, this condition will lead to just a socio-economic society. That's all from our group. Thank you.